Welcome to the Five Stack, everybody. Just a couple of middle-aged snacks going over the five biggest stories that democracy-loving North Americans need to know today. Thank you all for joining us. You're rushing into the room today, which I love to see. We've got John and SJ and PJ. A lot of people going by initials here. Liberty and Justice for All. How are you? Yeah, I love that handle. That's it. We got a lot of that to talk about today. My name is Dean Blundell. That is my friend Zev Shalev from the narrative.org website, which you can find on Substack. Become a subscriber today because, he tells it like it is. He's got a couple great stories up there. Hi, Peg. Nice to see you. Of course, my own Substack, deanblundell.substack.com is where you can go and enjoy some of the fare we're going to be talking about today, Zev. Unfortunate that America's coming apart at the seams and looks like civil war is on the horizon as Donald Trump attacked Los Angeles yesterday, literally attacked Los Angeles. Hi, Tammy. Nice to see you. Hello, world. We've got lots of Canadian news to get to, but what a weekend. I mean, the news never stopped. I felt like, I should be working on weekends. I really try to block weekends off, but maybe missed a couple this weekend because it was another pivot for the United States of America and democracy, if you will.
There's a lot of news that breaks sort of late at night,
Yeah.
or Friday night, so they like to throw it in there. So catches us off guard as we're having perhaps a little weekend. And the LA riots, or LA crackdown, LA attack, call it what you will, is certainly one of the biggest stories that we have faced in America for decades. I mean, this is really a federal assault on a United States. And it's unbelievable, really, when you think about the breadth of it. We'll get into some of the constitutionality of it, but I just published a story recently on narrative.org in the last couple of hours, looking at the personal history of Stephen Miller and how involved he has been in triggering this whole, assault by these ICE people against the illegal undocumented workers, particularly in Paramount, the Home Depot in Paramount. A few weeks ago, Stephen Miller directed ICE officials to go specifically to the Home Depots, where he knows that day workers or undocumented workers at those Home Depots looking for work, doing nothing illegal, looking for work, and getting work from people, and to target those Home Depots. And then I happen to remember that I did an interview a few years ago with incredible journalist Janine Guerrero, who wrote about Stephen Miller in a book called Hate Monger. And she revealed all about his childhood upbringing and how he was raised as a rich kid in Santa Monica. But then his father's business, his real estate business, went bankrupt, and he had to go to public school in Santa Monica. And it's
God forbid.
God forbid, hey? Santa Monica. Must be pretty amazing, actually. He gets there and he can't handle it. He can't handle the shame of his dad's business, the fact that he has to have Latino friends. He even tells one of his Latin friends that, he can't be his friend anymore because he's Latin. And so began this really crazy, wild path down conservatism and this anti-immigration stance that he has, which is not rooted in fact. It's not rooted in anything. It's rooted in his own personal retribution, his own personal shame. And the fact that it's actually playing out in his backyard, all this crackdown is happening in the backyard of his childhood, tells you exactly why this policy has been enacted. So not only did he launch all of this, created the chaos by instructing ICE officials to go in there and target that Paramount Home Depot, but we also know that his whole backstory is in that very area. We had so much resentment for Latin and undocumented workers. I should say.
Can I just expand on that narrative of a young Stephen Miller, also known as Nosferatu, who's parading around like a 2025 version of Joseph fucking Goebbels, whose friends growing up have all sold him out as the worst piece of shit they ever grew up with, and a guy who was such a polo shirt wearing fucking elitist dickhead as a child, who turned into a polo shirt wearing elitist racist dickhead as a teenager, as a young adult, and now as a member and senior advisor when it comes to Trump's immigration policy. The resentment politics play here is strong with every single one of these fucking maggots. Every
Yeah.
single one of them. Whether it's Elon Musk's resentment about his daughter, or becoming his daughter instead of remaining his son, and the trans movement and the woke mind virus that apparently turned his daughter gay and turned her into a trans woman, or whether it's Stephen Miller being upset that he had to eat lunch next to a kid from fucking Mexico when his dad lost it all because he was shitty at business. Every single one of these dicks in the Trump regime is there because they share a common hatred for a specific subset or group of people that have somehow affected their lives in a negative way because the life that they thought they had didn't meet their expectations. And so this is truly victim industry time. The United States, and what we saw yesterday was Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and the Trump regime attacking California out of pure resentment for how blue, progressive, and powerful that state is. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. It is the largest economy in the United States of America, California. And Gavin Newsom has a fucking stranglehold on that state because he is as progressive and smart and dynamic as you think he is. And Donald Trump is deathly afraid of Gavin Newsom. So it's not just the resentment and the hatred of marginalized groups and people of color driving this, the trans community and progressivism. It's Donald Trump's fear that Gavin Newsom could throw a monkey wrench in his attempt to turn America into a fascist pariah state, and a police state, which is fucking well on the way. And so now you've got a Herculean fight between California and Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and the United States of America and all that they represent for the soul of America. This is the front line. These are the battlegrounds where civil wars start, end, and compete. And if you don't think that what happened yesterday, where Donald Trump decided to stick his fucking his rapist felon nose into a peaceful protest where tens of thousands of people were marching, talking peacefully, by the way, peacefully. These were peaceful riots before the National Guard came in. These were peaceful riots where the LAPD had to go in and do something because people got whipped up to the point, thanks to the National Guard, where it was a war zone. And right now it is effectively martial law in downtown Los Angeles. It's a no-go zone for anybody. Los Angeles is dead and empty at this moment in time. And now you have a massive fight that is turned military, where Donald Trump has decided to use the United States military against his own fucking people. This is how civil wars start, and California is the front lines of what could be a powder keg in the United States of America, Zev.
This is also how authoritarian states take hold. And this is how authoritarian rulers, what they do is they look for these people. They look for these people who have retribution, but who believe they're so superior. You know, the Elon Musks of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world, the Stephen Millers, who believe they're too superior to be responsible for their own downfall, too, godly to be able to have to be, to speak to why they are no longer have the status of superhumans that they used to have, that they can't accept any personal responsibility. So they have to blame everybody else. And in this case, it's the undocumented workers, it's the LGBTQ community. It'll continue to expand. The liberals, Gavin Newsom, whoever they can, they'll keep targeting these communities to get themselves off the hook because they don't want to be held responsible. And at the end of the day, what we're going to find out is that this is how authoritarian regimes have happened everywhere around the world. It's by design. What we're seeing is by design. And what they're doing is creating a provocation in order to get the reaction that they're expecting. They're expecting the riots to get really violent. So then they can clamp down on it. So they can jump in there and be completely...
Well, that's why they sent them in. That's why they sent 2,000 California National Guardsmen in. That's why the government of the United States co-opted the California National Guard, said, okay, we're taking over. We're going to send them in. And they did it for one specific reason, is to make matters worse. It's to tell the world that we're not going to put up with this. Let me read you a couple of Truth Social tweets that the dotard president put out today. Okay. And I want you to keep in mind and the visuals of January 6th as I read these two Truth Social tweets to
you. I'm just doing something else in the meantime, so I'm listening.
Yeah,
I'm also
sure
trying to double.
It's okay. You can multitask, buddy. It's okay. I know you can. I know you're good at it. I know you're not going to abandon me on the podcast. It's okay. So after everything broke yesterday and Trump decided to co-opt the National Guard, and Gavin Newsom came out and called him the king of chaos, and is actually physically suing Donald Trump and the regime right now. Donald Trump puts this out: once a great American city, Los Angeles has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Los Angeles, invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now, violent insurrectionist mobs, fuck,
Insurrectionist. What a misuse.
Are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I'm directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, who last year said if Biden ever used the National Guard in states, that would be, tantamount to calling civil war. By the way, she said you should never do that. Now she's like, I'm all over it. Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion. So, most of the people that were protesting yesterday, I'm not done that tweet, were not migrants. They were people who were walking with migrants and people who were legally in the United States of America on protective orders. Most of the people that were walking yesterday. So, just keep that in mind. Then he goes on to say, after he's going to put an end to these migrant riots, order will be restored. The illegals will be expelled in Los Angeles, will be set free. And again, thank you for attention to this matter. Fucking idiot always says that at the end of these stupid tweets. And then he puts this out. And again, keep J6 and the swarming of police officers, the death of Ashley Babbitt, the attempt to get into the chamber of Congress to destroy the certification of the vote to make Joe Biden president of the United States, where people died, including police officers. Police officers were beat. Police officers were spit on. Police officers were kicked. Police officers were peed on. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Donald Trump puts this out about an hour ago. If they spit, we hit. This is a statement from the President of the United States concerning the catastrophic Gavin Newsom-inspired riots. Now he's blaming Gavin Newsom, even though he was the guy that sent in 2,000 National Guardsmen to shoot rubber bullets at individuals and shoot tear gas at migrants that were protesting, and American citizens, just American citizens, that were protesting peacefully, utilizing their First Amendment right. Okay, just keep that in mind. The insurrectionists, fuck, here it goes again, have a tendency to spit in the face of National Guardsmen and women and others. These patriots are told to accept this. It's just the way of life runs, just the way life runs. But we will not in the Trump administration. If they spit, we will hit, and I promise you they will be hit harder than they have ever been hit before. Such disrespect will not be tolerated. Okay? That is on the heels of January 6th. That man is fucking insane. He is a dictator. He's a fascist authoritarian who is actively threatening U.S. citizens for exercising their right, inserting the idea that everybody's getting spit on, and now we're just going to start beating the shit out of you until you conform. Ahead of June 14th, which is the No Kings protest day, where the entire country is going to be on fire. This is a fucking dry run for that. Do not kid yourselves. He is setting this up to distract you, America, and the free world, from his involvement in his feud with Elon Musk, which seems to have subsided, and I'll get to that in a minute. But he's also distracting you from the assertion that he is involved in the Jeffrey Epstein pedophile ring, and he's distracting you from his extreme, and I mean fucking cataclysmic failure of being the president of the United States for the people of the United States, who is driving the economy into the shitter, who is destroying health care for 14 million people, who is taxing you. He is going to tax the fuck out of the middle and the lower class with the big, beautiful bill. This is an attempt to distract you from his tariff failures. This is an attempt to distract you from the announcement that Mark Carney made today, saying effectively, fuck America, we're going to go alone with the European Union. And that's like another earth-shaking announcement. But everything this guy is doing, where he's co-opting pain, chaos, and misery for the people of the United States, is meant to benefit him, his regime, and him alone, so he can continue to destroy America as you know it, hurt you, your family, deport people who don't deserve it, and more importantly, go after people who might disagree with him, who might not share his opinion that fascism isn't an American value or fucking trait. So make sure go to my Substack. Please go there today, free or not. You can go and read them. We always welcome subscribers, and I want you to read both of the stories that I put up today that lean into this heavily with receipts where you can truly see the tipping point of fascism in America being the order of the day.
You're so right. Beautifully, beautifully said. And also, I've said for a long time, the 6-month mark is really important in it comes to establishing an authoritarian state. It's in their mind. It's in everyone's mind. They've got 6 months to really capture enough of the government that it becomes a tipping point where reversing back to democracy is very, very difficult. And we are seeing it every single day now. Every time, this particular provocation is the most direct and obvious attempt to establish authoritarianism in America that we have seen. I mean, it is clearly a provocation created by Stephen Miller, created out of the White House. This doesn't need to have happened. The chaos you're seeing on the streets in LA, the people frightened for their lives, the family members looking for their family members who are being deported, none of this needs to be happening. The National Guard being sent in does not need to be happening. The Secretary of Defense does not need to be threatening marine deployments inside LA. That is impossible to believe. None of this needs to be happening. It's happening because the Trump administration want to set up an authoritarian state. They want to see the violence on the streets of LA. They want to see the confrontation. They want to be able to go in there with as many heavy-handed units as possible. They want to be buzzing protesters. They want to be doing everything they can to make LA look like it's ungovernable, like it's being mishandled. They want to arrest Newsom, and they'll arrest the mayor of LA too, Karen Bass. They're going to do all these things because they feel like they want to establish an authoritarian state. And that is what we're on the path to doing. This is a lot about covering up for the uselessness of the last few months, but it is on a broad, bigger picture, all about autocracy and all about the ending of freedom and all about the ending of our rights in America. It's a very significant and sad day that we're facing this, but it also requires everyone to be really focused. It requires everyone to really understand what's going on. Knowledge is power. Sharing the truth is really important. Knowing that it's Stephen Miller who started this whole thing by sending the ICE people into that Home Depot, that's important information. Knowing that all this chaos is being created by Trump is important information. Knowing that they want to have a crackdown is good reason for us not to be, or to be very careful on the streets and not to dip into violence. Be aware that there are going to be agents, provocateurs out there who are going to be trying to instill violence on behalf of the state. We have to be so careful over the next few days not to let this inflame and to exhaust all our legal routes first before doing anything else. And then, not fall into this trap that they want to put us into. Because beyond that trap is unthinkable things. Things.
Well, we're seeing those unthinkable things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're seeing the American military, National Guard turn guns on their own people.
Mm-hmm.
Not something we've seen for 60 years. It happened when Kent State, they shot a bunch of people from the bell tower at Kent State. If you remember that, the anti-Vietnam War protests, they're like, let's start shooting students expressing their fucking civil right for basic free speech. History repeats itself, and it's repeating itself now. There is no alternative explanation other than police state, surveillance state, authoritarian, dictatorial aspects of this regime. There's no other alternative. That's the explanation. So when you sit there and you watch what happened yesterday, I don't look at it from a perspective, and I've seen a bunch of narratives, Zev. I don't look at it from a perspective of, it's Donald Trump versus Gavin Newsom. No. Donald Trump sent the military in to hurt Americans who are utilizing their First Amendment right in the fucking Constitution. It's the First Amendment. It's not the 5th. It's not the 14th. It's the very First Amendment. You're allowed to peacefully protest. Mm-hmm. Every single one of these protests was peaceful until Donald Trump forced 2,000 California National Guards men and women to go and attack the protesters so that he could have a visual that he could give back to the DOJ and say, okay, let's go after him. So he could have a visual to sell to maggots and Americans on the fence about what's going on that we need to violently deport migrants and people that this country so this is a national emergency. And when you see stuff like that, these are triggers for him to escalate. These are triggers for him to sell the escalation to the average American, to get them on side and go, just a bunch of Mexicans lighting cars on fire. Let's get them the fuck out of the country.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something, it fucking works. The guy's back in office. It fucking works. And I'm seeing people that I never would have expected, you know, which is amazing, completely forget about January 6th. Completely forget about that violence that Donald Trump planned, organized, fomented, co-signed, and allowed to happen for fucking hours. Hours.
We're witnessing
the
the rewriting of history. We're witnessing the rewriting of our current state of mind. We're witnessing the rewriting of our language. You know, clearly Jan 6 was an insurrection. What's happening in California is not an insurrection. Yet they are going to convince you and many Americans over the next few days that, in fact, what is going on there is an insurrection. It's a rebellion of some sort. It's a rebellion only maybe in Stephen Miller's mind, because in reality, these people are there trying to get to work. These people are day workers outside Home Depot looking to get their daily work so they can feed their families, send money back home maybe, and get,
and pay their taxes.
And pay their taxes and live their American dream. It's maybe not your American dream, but it is theirs. And these people drive the Californian economy, which is a massive economy. They drive the American economy to a large extent. What exactly is America going to do without all these workers? Where are we going to get all those people to do all this work? It's not going to be those people aren't going to be here. No one's going to want to come to America. People don't want to come to America anyhow. Around the world, America is being perceived as a pariah. No one wants anything to do with America. You're seeing investment bankers, you're seeing banks running away from investing in America just because they can't trust a thing that comes out of this government. Can't trust a thing. They don't know if the money they invest in America today is going to be safe tomorrow, or whether Donald Trump is going to do something stupid again that's going to tank all their investments. So why should they invest? So this once great beacon on a hill has been turned into a pariah, and people in America think there's justification for this. There's no justification. And I don't mean all people. I certainly know most people do not. But there are some people still who believe that there is some sort of real provocation going on here regarding immigration. There is none. No. This is a Tiananmen Square kind of moment for America. This is a moment where we link arms and we stay peaceful and we don't let those tanks roll over the streets, roll over the protesters. We just stop them, but in the most peaceful and careful way possible. We cannot let violence happen over the next few days. It's just, it already has started, but it really is important that everyone keeps their cool and stays peaceful, because that is what disarms. There's a great visual Olga always talks about protesters, I think it was in Georgia, giving flowers to the soldiers, handing flowers and showering them with flowers and love. That is the protest response that we need right now, not one that is up in arms or that accepts their provocation, because their provocation is what they're trying to do, is they're trying to make you be violent.
Yeah, and then they take that violent video, that violent rhetoric, they take the violent pictures, and they'll sell that to people and misrepresent that and go, well, the only alternative is we got to bust some fucking heads. We need to go after American citizens that are protecting these migrant criminals. And by the way, LA is not overrun by migrant fucking criminals. No more than Minneapolis is overrun by migrant fucking criminals. America is a melting pot. Yes, America, like every other Canada, has illegals in it. Yes, if you're in that country legally, point proven, absolutely, you should go, you should leave. But not all the people that he's gathering up. And this is like a generalized approach to mass deportation, where they don't give a fuck who the person is, as long as he looks like or she looks like she might not belong here. Because let's call this what it is. This is Trump's attempt to bring in as many Afrikaners as she fucking can, as he can, as many white people as he can, from as many white countries as he can, and to hold that up as the example of his empathy on the world stage for hostages. But they got to be white. But if you're not, if you're brown, if you're Hispanic, you are fucking gone. If there is a second between a second of daylight between whether or not you should be there or shouldn't be there without any explanation. You know how many people are getting arrested? Like 30% of migrants that have been sent out of the country have been arrested in courtrooms where they're going to get their citizenship or their green cards or their temporary worker cards. Like, these people are trying to do the fucking right thing by and large, en masse. Sure, there's bad actors and there's some assholes, and we get it, but no more than the fucking white assholes. Like, and as a matter of fact, I would make an assertion here today to tell you that white crime is a much bigger issue than any other crime, specifically the crime we're seeing on an industrial level done by the fucking president of the United States, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, that fucking airhead Kristi Noem, and everybody associated with the Trump regime. It is all hands on deck. And Marco Rubio, of all people, should fucking hide his head in shame for the rest of his life. These people at this point in time, and I'm not overstating this, these people that I just mentioned should go to the fucking Hague after this. When this regime crumbles, they should all of them get hauled into the Hague, and they should be put on trial for crimes against humanity, crimes against their own people. As we sit and watch each one of these videos and the co-opting of the word insurrectionist, and just a little fucking little light note for you. Donald Trump didn't use the word insurrection until yesterday. He didn't use it once because he knew he incited an insurrection against the United States. He knew he tried to fucking take over. He knew that was his coup. He had people fucking killed because of it. Then you got a bunch of fucking migrant protesters and American citizens protesting with their neighbors, trying to protect their basic human fucking rights. Get the shit kicked out of them, get shot with fucking rubber bullets, get their asses kicked with wooden sticks and ass trampled by fucking horses. Are you kidding me right now? And he calls them insurrectionists?
Sounds
what
shocking.
Are we doing?
Well, they are creating a state that doesn't look anything like America, that has no values that America is about. You know, these people have convinced white Americans, who are the most privileged people in the world by far, you know, that they are somehow under duress, that they are somehow under attack, that their livelihoods are at risk, their status is at risk. America is the leading superpower in the world. You know, white Americans are the most privileged people in the world. Their only reason they come into contact with undocumented workers is because they use them to feed them and to clothe them and to do all the work that they don't want to do themselves. And so to turn those people who are there serving them into the enemy is so ridiculous. It's so nonsensical. And there's no threat coming to America right now. The only threat that's coming to America is Donald Trump. The only threat that's come to America might be China, but it's certainly not from the inside. But yet Donald Trump has convinced this privileged group of God-fearing Christian white Americans that they are under assault by those nasty trans people and those nasty colored people and those nasty black people. And they are convinced that they're under assault somehow. They're not under assault. They're doing the assaulting.
Yeah. Kevin Paquette just said it best in the chat. He goes, they're domestic terrorists. The Trump regime are nothing but domestic terrorists. They represent the worst of the fucking worst, and it will get worse before it get better. And I go back to this, you know, to pivot from this conversation, which I don't even know if we should because it's so fucking serious. But I go back to this a lot, is that this isn't an isolated incident. This is happening all over the United States of America. What you saw en masse, what you saw in a large group in LA has been happening in homes across America, at restaurants across America. There's a California Italian restaurant that had some migrants working at it, and they pulled two guys out of the fucking kitchen. There's a video of it. You got to watch it. With about 15 heavily armed fucking guys in tactical gear, camouflage, fucking long rifles, sticks, handguns, knives. Sure, one guy had a bayonet to go get a couple of fucking dishwashers out of an Italian restaurant. Like, this is not, this is a police state. United States of America is now a police state. And again, I can't stress this enough. June 14th, there's a massive national rally,
Mm-hmm.
a massive national rally in the United States called No King's Day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I
Same
could be
day
wrong
as
if I
the
am.
military parade, I think.
Same day as Trump's Happy Birthday to Me $200 million military parade, which he is selling tickets for and collecting the money for personally, by the way. And that is going to be a disaster. You thought LA was a disaster? Times that by every major fucking city. What's going to happen in DC?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we watched Trump go after people in DC that day he walked out in front of the White House with that fucking Bible upside down, telling everybody he was in it for the rule of law. And the Bible is the rule of law. Like, I mean, people were shot with rubber bullets, tear gas, and stunned there as well. And they were protesting against the murder of George Floyd.
Mm.
So when you think about what happened in LA, times that by 20, 30, it will happen across America. And they will do their very best to make it look like migrants have risen up across the United States and now they're attacking our police. And if they're going to spit at us, we're going to kick the shit out of them. If they're going to create crime, if they're going to create crimes of passion, and by the way, they're not all migrants. Very few are.
Mm-hmm.
They're hiding.
Yeah, of course.
These are democracy loving Americans that are like, you can't fucking do this. You swore an oath to protect us. The very few migrants are showing up to these migrant protests because they're literally in fucking hiding. So when you think about what happens on June 14th, as you project out from what you saw this last week, button up because America's going to see some shit this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're trying to instill the, what this great term is, but Insurrection Act. I think it's something that they're trying to put in place. I think they want to try bypass the Posse Comitatus Act, which I am always struggling to say, but and habeas corpus. I think they're trying to do as much as they can to allow the military to intervene. And they expect, I guess, the military is going to follow their orders. But I don't know if that's true. And this is why it's so important to strategize around how you approach the military if you land up confronting them in your demonstrations. These are human beings. These are Americans. These are Americans who believe, just like you and me and everybody else, in the freedoms and the values of this country. And they don't want to be running down Americans. They don't want to be mowing down Americans. They don't want to be doing that. And so we need to appeal to them on the level that they are Americans and they do not have to follow these orders. The basic principle is they do not have to do this. And if they stand up and they say no to Trump, then we might have a possibility of us saying, this is not going to succeed. The Trump administration is not going to succeed in authoritarianism, because I can't imagine an American of any sort really going out there wanting to crack down against peaceful protesters who are expressing their First Amendment right, as you've been saying. So we should get onto the other stories of the. I was hoping that Tim Myers was going to join us. Tim Myers is he's running for office in the U.S. Congress, but I guess he'll join us at a later date because we can't quite figure out how to do it right now. But he's you might recall he runs Palladium Records, and he's a former bassist. I don't know how you say that.
Bassist, yeah.
And I have to put this up here because I forgot the name quite. And I know the band, and you know the band, but I'm being dumb about it because Tim Myers is from the band.
Waiting.
Bated breath. It's not even here. One Republic, 2002 to 2007.
Oh, yeah.
So he's a founding member of One Republic. I love their music. He's now running for office. He's going to be on the show in a few weeks from now, but because of what was going on with everything that's happening in California, I thought maybe he could jump on and just give us his take. I don't have an ability to do this while we're running the show, so I'm going to try this for tomorrow or another day. Hopefully, you can do it. Tim, thanks for reaching out, and we'd love to, love to get you on the show and hear your thoughts because you're right in the middle, right in the thick of things. But let's move on to the top 5 stories of the day. We're number 4 now. Elon Musk's operatives secretly installed Starlink satellite internet at the White House without notifying security staff, creating unmonitored communication channels that bypass all cybersecurity protocols designed to prevent leaks and espionage. The Department of Government Efficiency ignored internal warnings and whistleblower reports to House Democrats about the massive security risks I've been reporting about this for months now. Starlink is, was a way for Russia and for Doge to suck up all the information out of the U.S. government, and they were allowed to do it. And now we're faced with the prospect, maybe even likelihood, that Russia and China have all the data and have been monitoring every communication going in and outside of the White House for months now. This is an abomination. This is a real security breach. The fact that Elon Musk is allowed anywhere near a server right now is that he should be in jail. I mean, this is criminal. This is not legal to put Starlink up there, and yet they've done it. We know that there are reports they did it at the White House now. There are reports that they did it on top of government buildings to siphon off data and then basically downlink it to Russia and China.
Yeah, Canada's way ahead of this in conversations now about banning Starlink from use in federal, provincial, and all government buildings across the country. Even conversations about banning it for commercial use, for residential use, for individual use. So, listen, if you didn't think this was happening, you're crazy, right? If you didn't think that, Elon Musk, and by the way, I don't know if you've seen. I don't know if you've seen some of the tweets from Elon Musk over the past 24 hours since the whole thing in California broke. He's full on back in the Trump taint scrubbing club, where he's retweeting Trump shit about, close the borders, get rid of the fucking migrants.
Oh, so that feud was just a moment in time?
It's over. Apparently, he's now retweeting J.D. Vance, who put out a tweet saying America will not tolerate violent protests. And I'm like, okay. And then that was a subtweet of a Donald Trump tweet that we read earlier talking about how they're going to kick everybody's ass and California's fucked. The hypocrisy, the irony, it is all time. And knowing that Elon Musk is now once again supporting Donald Trump, these guys have a lot at stake here, right? Whether it's a secret link between Starlink and that the U.S. government has and the people of the United States have absolutely no access to, where law enforcement also does not have access to a Starlink connection that goes from the White House to Elon Musk to wherever the fuck he wants it to go. You're crazy. We live in the craziest fucking time, dude.
Yeah. This is unbelievable.
It's impossible for me to think that things aren't 20 times worse than even the conversations we're having today about Elon Musk and Starlink. And again, after the fucking Jeffrey Epstein stuff, which by the way, he deleted that tweet. I don't know if you know that. He deleted that tweet yesterday or 2 days ago, and now he's full on the Trump train. Like craziness, and how much these fucking morons need each other.
Well, it's interesting you point out all those things. Firstly, the control that Elon Musk now has remotely of every aspect of the U.S. government is terrifying. They can probably cause power grid failures across the entire system. They can probably, I don't know how, but I suspect they have specific control over content or at least the internet. And I'm sure that they can cause chaos just by stopping the system of the wheels of government turning can be stopped by what Doge is doing. So, we don't know, in fact, how much they have. And we don't know how coordinated it is. And we don't know, other than the fact that it's sitting on some Palantir AI system, what this AI can really do, what this AI that's swarming through America's government data can really do inside all that system now that he's moved it onto this new platform. My guess is it's probably pretty versatile. It can probably do a lot of things that would be quite terrifying. And when you think about that in the context of any protest, when you think about that in terms of any crackdown, it's worrying. It's not something not to be ignored. On top of that, this is story number 3. Vladimir Putin has offered political asylum to Elon Musk. This was when they were still publicly feuding, with Trump escalating, to have like federal retaliation against this. This is from the DeanBlundell.substack.com. Dean, what is going on? Is this real?
Yeah. It's real. It's a real troll job. It's what Putin does. It's what Russia does. Anytime an American gets into trouble with the law, is they'll offer asylum to somebody. Some notable asylum seekers: Edward Snowden back in 2013, if you remember correctly. Edward Snowden, government secrets, boom, he goes to Russia. Come here, we'll give you everything you need. Does it? Steven Seagal, who was being investigated for straight up pedophilia and child trafficking, moved to Russia. If you remember that, a couple of cops down in Florida have moved to Russia that were involved in the Epstein stuff.
Yeah, that's I reported
You
on that
remember
way
that?
back years ago. That was my story. That absolutely
2016. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
them's actually dead, but believe it or not,
went to wonder why.
he died in Russia.
They
Fell
mess
out of
around
a
with the
window.
Russians, fall out windows. You know,
Yeah, he totally fell out of a fucking window. What do you make of this? It's just an expert troll job. I mean, I think anytime Russia can stick their thumb in the eye of the United States of America, and by the way, they are loving all this.
well, they
Like
created it.
they created it. They're fanning the flames of it. They want visuals coming out of the United States of a police state because Russia is a police state. Justifies their existence, makes America look like a fucking scary place that no one wants to go to, brings them down a couple of notches, destroys their international reputation. This is fucking high time in Russia. If it weren't for the fact Ukraine is currently kicking their ass, if it weren't for the fact that they're blowing up trains, they took out a bunch of jets again yesterday and another couple of bombers. If it weren't for the fact that Ukraine is literally blowing up Russia's ability to wage war, I imagine there would be fucking parades down the street of Moscow just watching the United States implode because they've been working on this for 50 fucking years.
Yeah,
If you remember when Khrushchev said, we're going to take you down from the inside. We won't even need to fire a bullet. This is coming to fruition in front of you. So, when you talk about Russia sticking their nose in the Elon Musk, Donald Trump thing, that's just fun for them. Yeah, they'll offer him asylum. And if Elon Musk chose to take asylum in Russia, let's say Donald Trump gets removed, his entire cabal gets arrested, everybody goes to The Hague, you get Gavin Newsom as the president of the United States, he starts prosecuting the people. Don't think for a second Elon Musk wouldn't take him up on it.
Oh, and Donald Trump, they'll all go there. I mean, that's what happened in Ukraine, when they did the same thing in Ukraine in the original, before the last revolution, is that they, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but, he
Yanukovych? Victor Yanukovych?
Yeah, Yanukovych. Yeah, that's right.
Yanukovych, yeah. Is that the guy that they gave him a bunch of poison and his face exploded? It looked like a teenager's back.
Yeah, I think Paul Manafort worked for him. Remember, that was the Paul Manafort connection. So the same team that gave you Donald Trump gave you Yanukovych. Yanukovych fled to Moscow with half of the Ukrainian treasury in his back pocket, and that's and Manafort did that with him. So this is the same crowd. This is the same tactics. They all work for Russia. If you still think that Trump Russia was a hoax, you're not paying any attention. Trump Russia is very, very real. Was from the start. Has been proven 1,000 times over and over again, and the proof is in the pudding today. The story number two in the
number line. 2.
Thank you.
You got it.
This is a huge story. So, Canada has announced the largest defense mobilization since World War II. Canada, the most peaceful country in the world, is delivering a nation-defining announcement from Prime Minister Mark Carney. The largest defense mobilization since World War II, finally hitting the 2% NATO spending target while joining the EU's 1.25 trillion Rearm Europe Pact. This is something else. So this is really redefining the geopolitical landscape around the world.
Yeah. There's a neat post. Love to share it with everybody if you get a chance to go and check it out. DeanBlundell.substack.com. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announces largest defense mobilization since World War II. Listen, we're going to remember this day for a long time if it wasn't overshadowed by what's going on in LA, and don't think that didn't figure into Trump's calculus because he knew this announcement was coming. And Carney's been telegraphing this since April. He was like, hey, listen, we're going to draw a line in the sand. We're going to diversify our military partners. We're going to join the Rearm Europe Pact with our EU partners. Today, he put some teeth into that announcement. It was absolutely fucking stunning. If you got a chance to watch it. In his announcement, he said, effectively, we need reliable partners. We don't have those at the moment, so we've ended those relationships without naming the United States. He went as far as to name Russia and China when it came to hurting Canadian interests online. So there is a little spike there when it says, hey, we're going to deal with something online. We're going to protect ourselves with Borealis, which is an AI company. We're going to protect Canadians' information. We're going to protect Canada's online atmosphere. But then he went a little further and he said, let's get into the fucking military stuff. Canada is going to hit our 2% GDP to NATO spending this year, 5 years early.
Wow.
5 years early. So
wow.
We're going to take it from 0.97% up to 2% this year. We're going all in on NATO. While Donald Trump watches America burn, we're going to spend with NATO and support our partners so we can have a strong set of alliances. Billions is going into new fighter jets, not F-35s. Billions going into control planes, drones. Canada's set to bring our own drones online in 2027. Like, it's a big fucking deal. Arctic surveillance, new armored vehicles, finally giving our troops resources they deserve. More importantly, of course, it means we're going to invest here. Canada's going to rebuild its defense industry from the ground up using Canadian workers, their own raw materials, their own minerals, and Canadian innovation. We're also part of the procurement revolution. We're going to buy Canadian. What does that mean? It means that Carney's going to centralize the military procurement process into one agency on behalf of all the provinces in Canada, also when it comes to trade and raw materials, and building a superhighway of energy corridor when it comes to digital pipelines, oil, bitumen, refineries. And we're going to make sure we get that out to both. We have talked about this numerous times, get it out to both coasts. So we're in charge of our national resources. But what we're going to do is take a lot of those raw materials and partner with different countries, Sweden, Finland, UK, France, Ukraine, to build pieces of this rearmament, 1.25 million from the EU and Canada going into rearming free countries and building our own munitions, building our own planes, building our own armored vehicles, building everything that you need to make this a superpower. He's also going to increase wages for the men and women in uniform. We're going on a massive recruitment streak. We're going to have a full-time military deployment in the Arctic to protect Canadian sovereignty in the Arctic from Russia, from China, from the encroachment of those multipolar dickheads that want to make Canada's Arctic their Arctic. And where it got really interesting when I was watching this whole thing was how he tied jobs, the economy, and innovation into the rebuilding of Canada's military, and how he consistently went back to that messaging of not having a reliable partner in the United States, the threats coming out of Russia, the threats coming from Donald Trump, which he did not name. But he was really specific in the fact that we live in a new time. And he made that announcement this morning, which brought in sort of all of the little micro announcements that he's been making about Canada's procurement process for the military, with the Arctic, with new partners for our economy, diversifying our trade partners, diversifying our military and security partnerships as well. So today was a fucking huge day. If, again, wasn't for Trump in LA, this would be the biggest story in the world. And I also just want to remind you, he also mentioned Ukraine and said we've got a really strong military partnership with Ukraine, which we're going to announce. And all of this, by the way, he said will be done by July the 1st. July the 1st. GDP spending in by March. July 1st, these partnerships will be in place, and we start building on July 1st, which is Canada Day.
About Canada is it's not really a fast country. I mean, it hasn't been a fast country up until now. The amount of consultation that happens in government in Canada can really take forever. And
we're up our own asses with bureaucracy here.
Yeah.
And so to watch the lack of bureaucracy makes a guy like me incredibly happy.
Yeah, it's amazing that they're going to be able to pull this off in such a short amount of time. It is also, a great indicator of we can't rely on America to lead the free world anymore. We can't rely on America that's going to be there for us when China comes around or Russia comes around or anyone else tries to attack us, because the free world is compromised. The leader of the free world is compromised. It's and we're seeing it every single day, which leads me to the number one story, which I also wrote about a narrative today. China has just shattered a strategic barrier that has contained its naval forces for 70 years. So they have a aircraft carrier, the CNS Liaoning 300. It's the Liaoning, and it's 300 kilometers off Japan's easternmost territory. So the way China has been contained since the Second World War has really been, since the 50s, has been all around containing them to these southern islands in the South China Seas. Along the perimeter, they gave a huge chunk of it to Japan. So there's a whole, it's all the way around Japan. There's a huge a whole lot of water that is controlled by Japan that technically would have been China's in the previous incarnation. But because they've been contained by American principles, they've had a strategic enforcement of these water lines that have not allowed China to operate in international waters. Well, now China has breached it. They have now an aircraft carrier on the eastern side of Japan. That means that they are basically in open international waters. They also happen to be stationing it right above where there is identified rare earth mineral resources that are underneath the sea there. So it is a hugely provocative move. It's the first time we've seen anything like this. But it reminds us that China is busy growing its army. They now have the biggest naval fleet in the world, bigger than anybody else. They intend to have as many as 6 aircraft carriers, some with nuclear capability, some with capability we don't have on ours, that are going to be available within the next 6 years or even 5 years. They are building such incredible military expansion. And you don't think about Chinese aircraft carriers because they don't have many. And you certainly have never seen them in international waters. But they have been growing and growing their presence around Taiwan, around the South China Seas, and around Japan every single day for the last few months. But this was incredible provocation to take this aircraft carrier and position it basically in international waters on the other side of Japan. That is incredibly, incredibly scary for what's to come.
Yeah, if you've seen some of the videos of these ships that they're building that transport troops, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos, massive, massive ships that have ramps that you can literally take the ship, ram it into the shore, and then these massive ramps where you can get hundreds of thousands of men, tens of thousands of men and women, whoever, armored equipment, from a boat onto the shore in a matter of minutes. They can have an entire city set up in a matter of minutes. And if you know anything, if you've read anything about the military-industrial complex being in overdrive for the past 20 years in in China, and how China never does anything for now, what they do is they plan for generations from now. And so they've been keeping their nose clean, getting their asses kicked, being isolated for 40, 50 years, ever since becoming a communist state. They have been effectively managed by the United States of America. Donald Trump took the governor off China's ability to do whatever the fuck they want by basically co-signing them and destroying the relationships that each individual country had with the United States in containing China. Rahm Emanuel did a great podcast with David Frum about this. If you go back, it's David Frum's first Atlantic podcast. You should go listen to it. Highly encourage you to. Is that all the effort that Obama and Clinton and Bush and every president before them and the complex put into keeping China at bay has been destroyed in 4 months. It's been destroyed. Not only is the governor off, we don't know. Like, they've got tens of millions of soldiers. It's active duty for almost every single person in that country at the age of, I think, 16 or 17. You get co-opted into the army, you learn a skill. Like, if you look at videos of kids in kindergarten, they're learning how to do things like weld. They're learning how to contribute to whatever China's goals are. Building houses, like they teach kids how to use bricks and how to make like mortar when they're in like the first and second grade. It's truly phenomenal what they've done, and the purposes for what they've done is to go back and get their empire back out of hock from years and years of being subjugated into an isolationist state. I think what's scary to me, too, is how advanced they are with drone warfare. Like, I laugh when everybody's like, we're going to build an aircraft carrier. I'm like, those things are fucking obsolete. It's drones, baby. It's all drones. And then you consider what China does with drones. Some of the light shows that they put on that are so spectacular. You're like, how are they fucking doing this? And there's a video that's going around the internet. You got to see it they've got like hundreds of thousands of drones in the sky at the exact same time. And I'm like, oh my God, you put bombs on those things, which Ukraine is doing. And then you think about them having the ability to get from A to B at a moment's notice, offload everything. I am petrified of what China is becoming and what I don't know that they have, because they've been quietly going about arming themselves into a superpower for the last 50, 60 years.
I mean, I did not know that they had biggest naval fleet in the world. Did you know that?
No.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I did.
And then you've got the submarine fleet that they're building, the secret submarine fleet that they've been building. No one really knows what that's like, how many they have, but they're all around the world. And then the drones, these drones that are able to fly on AI and coordinate multiple drones at one particular time through, one the sort of head drone, and then the others fly around it and do different missions along the way. This is such an advanced force that, and obviously this is not just about Taiwan. This is about dominating the world. China is out to get the United States to be destroyed. And it just so happens to be that there's a president in the United States who currently wants to destroy America. Now, that isn't coincidence, in my opinion. That's because I believe that he was installed there for this very, very purpose. And so you've got a Manchurian candidate in the White House working on the inside, trying to destroy America, while China is building this enormous military presence that can achieve the goals from the outside. And that's pretty good strategy. That's pretty good strategy if you're going to try to destroy America, if you're going to try to destroy a superpower, and it does require absolutely decades of patient planning and thinking, which the Chinese are very good at doing. And yet, they have been around for a very long time. The Chinese have been a continuing nation for 5,000 years. They will tell you all the time. They have not been uninterrupted in China. And they have seen many other superpowers come and go. They know how this business is done. And they are showing America how this is done. So for those Americans who think this is about undocumented immigrants or just about a GOP Democratic fight that's going on. This is about the destruction of America. This is about the bringing down of a global superpower. And regardless of what you think of that global superpower, because many people have a lot to say about it, it still is the superpower that gave us all the liberal freedoms and a lot of the advancement, all the technological advancement and everything else we've experienced in the last 100 years, which I can tell you China is not doing. China is a repressive, dictatorial, one-party state, and they have no intention of changing that. This idea that they were going to reform themselves was a ruse. It was just a way to get money from the West. In reality, they have stayed to be the same dictatorial state they've always been. America is the only true democracy in the world, ultimately. The only true democracy where there's no aristocracy or crown or anything above that. And yet, they are being destroyed from the inside out. And because the weakness there is if you turn America into an autocracy, which is what Donald Trump is doing, then the whole mission of America collapses. It's no longer government for the people, by the people. The whole thing just collapses. It's brilliant strategy, and it's happening right now. And it's ultimately in the America's people's hands how they act now. It's American military's hands. If this is true about Marines being sent into LA, it's up to everybody to figure out exactly how they want to live their future and not let this administration ultimately turn us into the autocracy that he's trying to do and hand over the future to China.
Well said, dude. Well said. This is not a blip, right? This is not something that you can look at no matter where you are and go, he'll slow down. The Supreme Court's going to step in. No one's coming. No one's coming. Russia's coming. China's coming. All the pariah states are coming. They're all celebrating what's going on in America. Everything that we covered today should be warning signs for democracy lovers in America, no matter what ideology you follow. Whether it's the narrative or myself or Lev Parnas, who will be on the show tomorrow, the warning signs of people who have been on the inside, of people who can read tea leaves, and journalists, the visuals you see of people getting beat by their own military. I mean, this is a 12-alarm blaze. And as you pointed out earlier, how much time it takes for a democracy that has been, the world's example for democracy for the past 200 years to turn into a dictatorial, authoritarian police surveillance state like Russia. It appears 4 or 5 months. That's what it took. 6 on the outset. We're not quite there yet. So, my heart goes out to Americans today. My heart goes out to anybody who is so tired of the news cycle and just hopes that this blows over. It's not going to blow over. The geopolitical world has changed and will continue to change. You're going to see the assertion of other superpowers that are not the United States of America. You saw it in positive ways in Canada today with Mark Carney, where he's like, the world is changing. It has changed. We have to do what is best for us. You've also seen other countries go backwards, where Canada is going forwards, dealing with what we can deal with. And I have no question in my mind the United States is going to try very, very hard to prevent Canada from making those necessary sovereign changes to our defense and military spending. I have no doubt in my mind that China and Russia are going to do their best to make sure that we don't diversify our trade partners. So will the United States of America. And it's going to take the resolve of countries and the people in those countries, not the government of those countries, not the greedy politicians, because they're just business people. They're just con men, con women, and business people. That's what politicians are. That's why governments exist. They exist because you've got two businesses in democratic countries, maybe three. In communist countries, you got one business that has a chokehold on the entire country, its people, and their tax dollars. But in democratic countries like the United States and here in Canada, we've got really two parties. Those parties are businesses. And behind those businesses are all kinds of elite interests that have nothing to do with you. You're a fucking means to an end. Your tax dollars, your votes, you're a means to the end for two businesses. In the United States, you're a means to the end for the GOP and the Democratic Party. In Canada, you're a means to an end for the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. We're really fucking lucky up here in Canada. We're really lucky because a man with values and virtues who doesn't want to be a king, he wants to see Canada continue, is our prime minister today. In the United States, that's the point of difference, is that you fucked up. You elected the opposite of someone with values. You elected a rapist and 34-time felon, a guy who's declared bankruptcy 6 times, a sexual predator, sounds like possibly a pedophile, a guy who hung out with pedophiles, supported pedophiles, a guy who pardoned January 6th criminals, who murdered police officers, a guy who is asking the Proud Boys to help out with some of the riots in L.A., just stand by and stand back, he said to him. And Enrico Tarrio yesterday, he's like, I'm standing by for my president, the leader of the Proud Boys, who he pardoned, who was sentenced to 18 years fucking hard time for espionage, for taking part in the insurrection. That's an insurrection. That's the only point of difference is we elected someone with values and virtues. You elected someone who had the values of a serial killer. So you got to get your way out of it. And I hope that on June 14th, everything's peaceful. I would encourage everybody in the United States of America, our beautiful partners and friends. And listen, we love Americans. We really do. We know the difference between MAGA Americans and Americans. I make that stipulation every time. But be peaceful. Don't light shit on fire. Don't punch, don't spit, don't kick. Go with flowers. Go with your friends. Go with your family. And support democracy. Support your neighbors. But whatever you do, do not get violent because they will take all of those things. And you did such a great job of making that stipulation to start this podcast. They'll take all those visuals and they'll say, see, we have to do more of this. And more of this is not something that America needs right now, nor the free world. I'm fucking sick watching these videos. To be
honest. Is so well said. And I want to just add one little point to that, which I think people need to remember. You know, people say America has never dealt with autocracy. But that's not true. America has dealt with autocracy. That's how it became America. You know, America's establishment was in throwing off the reins of an autocratic ruler that they believed was mistreating them. That's how America was formed. That's the whole project of America. So America knows what to do. The American people know what to do. The Constitution is built to help defend America. We know that these checks and balances do work. And if they don't work, once we've exhausted all the legal avenues, then you can have, you can take back your government. But that's the system is built for you to succeed. Now it's up to Americans to go and succeed in that task. And maybe it's time to have another one of those.
I was just going to say, I totally agree. And by the way, you looked great saying it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I was going to just say that everyone should check out your amazing Substack, deanblundell.substack.com.
Yeah.
Where a lot of today's stories are in there, and there's just great stuff. Really, always so informative, so well researched, so well documented. And the other stuff you can find at narrative.org, narrativ.org. The Stephen Miller stories there, plus some other stuff about China.
Yeah, I highly encourage everybody to go to Zev's Substack. The Stephen Miller story and the breakdown of what's going on with LA is second to none. You won't find anything like it. The next best version of a write-up and explanation was in The Atlantic, so great work. But go to narrative.org and check it out. And at deanblundell.substack.com, we had a flash sale on Friday, which was bananas. We might do it again this next Friday for 50% off, but we kept the actual annual membership for the annual membership subscription. We kept it at 35% off. We really want people to come in. We really want people to share this content. We want to give people the inside look at what's going on, the ideological look, the character look, the value look. And we try to kind of explain what's in these tea leaves that you're reading right now, what these intentions are. So would love for people to go and subscribe. Free or paid, doesn't matter. 35% off for unlimited access until the end of June. Maybe another quick flash sale, but no guarantee of that. I get in trouble when I do it, but I love doing it because I love having people join us. So go to deanblundell.substack.com. Join us today. You can do the same thing over at Zevs, narrative.org. Subscribers, free or paid, always welcome. We love you, and this is why we're here.
I'm going to try to understand everything you just said about the sale there. So it's 35% off unlimited, which is what? Unlimited means?
Annual, unlimited.
Forever.
You get full access. Annual, yeah.
So it's an annual rate, 35% less.
Yes, sir. 35% off.
All right. I think I'm at 25%, but I will right after this match you at 35% off on narrative.org. So everyone
give
can have
the
the same
people
discount.
a break.
Hey, I love everybody here, and I appreciate the support so much. It makes us able to do the work we do, and just as thankful for everyone showing up. We'll be back tomorrow on the 5 Stack. We'll see you at 3 p.m. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a great day.